All right. How's everybody doing out there in Radio Land? I'm doing well. David Ellenbogen here. You're listening to WKCR FM New York and WKCR HD1. Many thanks to Michael Lenhart for bringing all that music, beautiful music of his own and his inspirations and of his father. That was super fun. And this music that I'm playing now is a transition to our next guest. That was music from Mahmoud Gnawa, an album called Colors of the Night. And Mahmoud Gnawa is one of the great malims, master musicians of the Gnawa tradition. And my next guest, Alexandre Tannous, is going to be doing an event coming up this Thursday, December 5th, at the Assemblage, in which he discusses the power of trance and other elements of the power of music, and then we'll have a performance by Malim Hassan Ben Jaffer and Innov Gnawa. So it's going to be a really interesting evening, and I'm always happy to have this wonderful ethnomusicologist, composer, musician, and all-around inspiration, Alexandre Tannous. So welcome. Great to be with you.
Great to be here. Thank you, David.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
Great. Yeah. I thought we were going to have a bigger snowstorm, but it was not so bad, so it was easy to get here.
Yeah. We dodged a bullet, but there'll be more, I'm sure. And so, I mean, I'm so curious and interested to kind of just dive right in with you. I mean, here we are starting off this show playing traditional Gnawa trance music. What do we know? I mean, I guess what do we know about how traditional societies used music in the context of what people call trance?
Mm-hmm. We know quite a lot, but the story changes. It changes based on how seriously people take the narrative, not knowing that the narrative is actually based on metaphors. And metaphors of things, it's hard to talk about them, to articulate them. Sometimes the metaphors are of metaphors and of metaphors, so it gets very complicated. So I'm interested in connecting the dots and trying to figure out why music, why people use music in all sorts of different contexts, settings, ceremonies for healing, trance, possession, shamanism, in spiritual ceremonies and Eastern philosophies, the mantra system, the sutra system, all sorts of chants in religious ceremonies, in, mainstream world. And what does music do for us? Where do we get this drive? Why music is the most popular, accessible art? Where does this power come from? And I studied a variety of different things in the past in music, performance theory, composition, conducting, music education, ethnomusicology. So when you become interested in the various facets of music and look at it through different angles and filters, you start to realize that there's a far bigger truth that is driving our need to listen to music, play music, make music, and that's very, very important, far more important than people think it is. And if you start to research the esoteric properties of sound and the therapeutic properties of sound, which is what I've been doing for 17 years, focusing on where does this power come from, how does it manifest, how does it serve humanity, what its ultimate point, how has it been driven in different ways in the West and other non-Western countries and cultures to create an industry out of it. Why is it so important? So we realize that has always been used in different trance forms. So we're going to focus today on Gnawa, but just to say this is something that doesn't only occur in Gnawa. Syncretic religions such as Vodou from Haiti, Santeria, candomblé, which come from West Africa, from Dahomey, the former region in West Africa, Umbanda, and all sorts of different styles from Central and South American countries, and so many African countries that still practice healing and trance and the role of music in shamanism with psychedelic plants or non-psychedelic plants. So where do we go? What does music do? How essential it is? So it's very, very beautiful and complex. And if you keep tracing it, you get to a very deep esoteric aspect to sound that it's often connected to the creator of the universe. The universe was created with the primordial Om or Aum. In the Bible, New Testament, it's the Word, and the Word was God. It's the Logos. Initially in ancient Greek, when the Bible was brought to Europe, was in ancient Greek, and instead of the Word, it was the Logos. The Old Testament starts with Genesis. To me now, I don't think Genesis is telling us how God created everything in 6 days and rested on what became the Shabbat. It's basically, when you hear, and on the first day God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Well, you become God when you learn how to create with your words, and how the word exists because we have a language for it. And what happens in Indian classical music, the overtones, all of this is pointing toward very deep, serious, complex, and awesome intelligence that is in the universe, and that's what connects our consciousness to the universe. This is where the concept of God is, and that's basically what the Pythagoreans and the Neoplatonists were talking about, in an overall order of things, to understand the true nature of why humans are alive, what are we supposed to do when we are in human experience, where do we go when we die, what are these trance states about, what are mystical states, and mysticism and esoteric philosophies. This is very essential, and probably the most essential thing that a human being can know. It was taken out of the picture. It was appropriated by the industry and expropriated from people. And music is also used to dumb down consciousness. That's a whole other topic we're not going to address now. But it's not an accident that all holy books start with the concept that sound is the creator of reality, the universe. Sound is God. And sound can allow us, if we know how to properly use it, to experience the likeness of God within us, the divine within, or whatever you want to call it. So that's why I'm interested in the origin of also, harmonic series, which is what sound is, and the reason why it exists in nature is to give us tone, color, or timbre to everything that we listen to, every sound. That's the difference between your voice and mine, or the difference between note played on a piano and the same registered note played on ukulele or banjo. But ultimately it's a harmonic series, and the harmonic series is the most intelligent mathematical constant in the universe. And there are many constants. Most people know few, pi, phi, or the golden mean, golden ratio. The harmonic series seems to be so essential because it changes the way you perceive reality. It creates an emotional state. The raga, the maqam, it's about emotions. And it changes the way the brain, heart, the entire body is creating reality, filtering it, and transducing it, these three things. And that's basically why we listen to music, to change the way we are, the way we're feeling. And if you know how to do that, you can do a wide variety of different things. Either fill in the space and listen to music in the background as the person is working on whatever, which is not the proper way to listen to music. Or you can use it as a meditative tool, or you can get in touch with the archetypes, the Mluk, as we talk about them now in Gnawa, and connect to God, connect to divinity. And, but it takes knowledge, it takes awareness, it takes an intention. And we're being flippant with all of that. But there's a great movement that is circling back and trying to use music in a more productive healthy way and not just to serve the industry, those who are getting us to become addicted to buy, but when music is not doing a whole lot to allowing us to understand who are we. So trance is the way to go. That's how the ancients did it in a variety of different ways. And Gnawa, what we'll talk about and play and talk about various aspects, is a very, very complex musical style. It's also Gnawa. It's connected to the human being. It's a person. It's an identity. It's not just music. That's how powerful it essentially it is.
Yeah, and when you say that it's a kind of road or way to link up with the archetypes, and in the few trance ceremonies that I've witnessed in various places, the music starts, and then people get what people describe as spirit possessed, and they take on the characteristics of the spirit or God associated with that music, and it can be expressed in a very profound manner. You know, someone who is maybe attractive will suddenly become take out the archetype of an old man and will no longer be attractive or something. There's certain musical mechanisms that I find are universal amongst the musics of spirit possession. I've definitely a repetition, often like almost all the time, polyrhythm, but not. And what else, what would you put on the list of the musical mechanisms to bring people into this altered state?
Yeah, well, you brought up two important points. So the repetitive rhythm, polyrhythm, the speeding up of the tempo, accelerando, the drone, the overtones in the drone, basically these frequencies that give the tone color. And this is why now we see great rise in what people call sound healing or sound baths. I like to call it sound meditation. That's what I ended up by specializing in sound therapy and using sound as a therapeutic modality. But it's very complex. Again, we're not good at naming things as they are. So when we hear the overtones, we go into transcendental, meditative, contemplative state, even psychedelic state. Microtonality, how the notes in the octave are divided in equal temperament, which is what Western music is about, which is quantizing the octave, the distance between one note and the octave higher, the doubling of the frequency, into, in the West we have 12 tones, and now there are 12 equidistant quantized tones. That's equal temperament. Whereas in non-Western culture, the octave is not quantized, and there could be 22 tones, like in Indian classical music, 24 in Arabic and Persian, 53 in Turkish, 72 in Byzantine music or octave. So the mathematics of sound, this is essential also to have in sound for people to go in trance. The relevance of the drone and how the drone is played as the musician, vocalist or instrumentalist, is playing freely and soaring above that and always aware of the tonality, the centrality. The soulfulness, putting virtuosity at the service as of emotionality, and the expression, the use of silence between phrases. So all of these characteristics are found in musical styles, genres, or pieces of music that the aim is about going inwards or losing the self. It's almost the same thing. You know, this is why Sufis use sound, music, with or without whirling, often accompanied by whirling if it's whirling dervishes. And there's a variety of different forms of Sufism. You have Sufism from Pakistan and northern India, Qawwali music, which has similar characteristics to Gnawa, actually. They use sound to lose the self. They call that al-fana, a state of total dissolution of the ego. So it's comparable to the samadhi state that Hindus talk about, moksha, kensho, satori. So this is what we look for if we have the opportunity, if we have the knowledge, if we have the intentions. Something bigger than the everyday life. Something that connects us to very essential force in reality, in the world, that was also packaged and appropriated and used and became businesses, religions that preach great things. But the ultimate point, we feel, and we're feeling this more and more, that there's something off. People are killing each other over which way is best to worship Jehovah, and that's basically the God that Jews, Christians and Muslims worship. Sunnite and Shiite and Muslims and Christians and Protestant Catholic have been for centuries killing each other over that. Something's fundamentally wrong. But they also use sound as well, music. It's part of hijacking consciousness. So it's very complex. You cannot talk about music and sound in such a localized way because it connects to everything. And that's something that we need to bring back, this fascination, this mystery, the interest, the everyday person in this side of music that's not discussed at all, or very, very, very little. But at the same time, everybody loves music. Everybody boasts about how much they love music and how much they know about music. Let's keep in mind that we don't know what we don't know. And often we can celebrate mediocrity. I mean, we've all been through that, right? As early teenagers, we think we discovered it, and then we start to realize, oh my God, that was total crap. And,
you mean Def Leppard wasn't...
I don't want to name names.
Okay.
So it's
well,
great.
you know, actually interesting. Volume is often a thing with putting the brain into a different state.
To heighten the mood, yes.
Yeah.
To drive the inner chemicals, the biochemistry. It's about altering the human trip.
So is the modern rock concert at its best some kind of replacement for the ancient...
Yeah, except it's coming at a cost. They're selling you something, and your cilia, your hearing cells, are dying by the minute, and we have 25,000 of them in each ear. They start dying the day we were born. So it's not a good thing. Tinnitus is an epidemic now.
Sure.
So many people have it. So, and also in cities, people walking around with headphones to drown out the noise pollution, the subway sound, the blaring fire truck or ambulance or police car or whatever. But it's heightening the mood because, if you're listening to something you love and you blast the volume high, you feel different emotions, adrenaline and norepinephrine, and all these chemicals are pumping in a different way. But it's the sound of your music that's deafening you and creating tinnitus, no longer the noise pollution. So people have to be super, super careful with this.
Well, some people say there's an exchange going on.
There's an exchange, yes.
Let's hear a little Vodou music for a brief minute, and then get back to this discussion about trance.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, music from Chez Vaudou. Apparently, Vaudou is the preferred pronunciation amongst practitioners of Vaudou, as opposed to voodoo. We're just talking about trance in general. My guest, Alexandre Tannous, is going to be giving a talk about trance and the sound, power of music and power of sound. December 5th, this coming Thursday at the Assemblage. You can go to the Assemblage John Street and Google that, Assemblage John Street, and hear this special event, which has not only Alexandre Tannous giving a keynote presentation, but there'll be a performance from Innov Gnawa and their leader, Malim Hassan Ben Jafar, who is one of the treasures of New York right now. I mean, he's a guy whose father was a master Malim and had studied in all different parts of Morocco, and he is familiar with the entire repertoire, including the Jewish repertoire of Gnawa. It's a pretty amazing person, and Innov Gnawa have brought Gnawa music to prominence with a recent Grammy nomination with a collaboration they did with an electronic artist, and so that's our excuse for having this chat about Gnawa music and the power of sound with this great ethnomusicologist, composer, and musician, Alexandre Tannous. So, what strikes you as you hear this kind of more traditional Vodou music?
Well, I studied it a while back ago. Friends of mine, members of the group Bookman Experience, initiated me in what's happening in Vodou music and all the elements and the religion as well. It's a syncretic religion that has a lot of blended Christianity, especially Catholicism. The altar, the spring of water, pictures of saints. Same with Candomblé and Santeria. Basically, you find similar things happening in these musical styles, traditions, is that people get together and they're musicians playing, and often an initiator of ceremony, some sort of a priest in the Vodou context. It's the Ougan, and that's the good priest. Bad priest, the one that deals with black magic, is Bokor. And the ceremony would start, and people start to dance and chant, and there'll be a lot of polyrhythmic textures and chanting, singing, playing various instruments, accompanied with dance, and people become go in a state of trance. They become possessed. This has negative connotation, but basically they embody a different spirit or archetype. I have to be careful with the word spirit because it has many different definitions. In the Vodou context, they call it chevauché, which is horse-ridden, ridden by spirit. And the spirit in Vodou they call Loa, L-O-A. And the people around, they would recognize through the behavior of this person, man or woman, and the way they're speaking, and that changes as well, and the words, the ethos, which Loa is speaking through this person, and would give advice, would solve issues, or in some cases, the person possessed would be punished and kind of like rehabilitated for wrongdoings in the trance experience. So, and what they use here, the most essential part are 3 drums, petite, moyenne, and maman. And so the maman cannot change, cannot alter anything. And if the person goes in trance, everything falls apart. So what we're experiencing here is something that occurs everywhere, and in a bit we're going to start talking about it in a Gnawa context, is that music, rhythms, polyrhythms, microtonality, every aspect of music And unfortunately, very few of these things exist in Western pop music and mainstream music. This tells you something. Are essential to alter the person's consciousness, the people's consciousness who are in attendance. They go into non-ordinary state of consciousness, into an altered state, a psychedelic state, transcendental state, variety of different states, whether they're dancing or not. In the Gnawa concept, for example, in traditional setting, when a person falls ill, the family would call on a ma'allim, which means master, ustad, person who has reached a certain level of proficiency, knowing the repertoire of how to conduct such ceremony. And the ceremony is very complex. Pardon. So it's very complex because it's about playing. Well, the setting is basically the person is in bed or sitting down, going through a lila, which starts at dusk and ends at dawn, and sometimes goes on for 2-3 days with some breaks. The person surrounded by the immediate family, the extended family, the neighbors, and the ma'allim and the musicians playing, doing call and response. That's also very important. There are 2 to 5 or 6 people in the back standing up playing big metallic castanets, specific rhythms with a lot of overtones in these metallic castanets, and specific rhythms are being played. There are 3 to 5 rhythms, essentially 3, but there could be up to 5 with small variations. They play repeated rhythm that creates trance, and what the ma'alim is doing, sitting down, playing the instrument that has 3-4 different names, santir, gimbri, hajouj, and sings. And this instrument is kind of comparable to a basic traditional version of a bass guitar made with gut strings, with a lot of percussive parts on the membrane where the bridge rests. So it's not just playing the strings. And the notes are microtonal. They're not equidistant. They're not notes that are played on a keyboard. They fall in the crack. So there's this call and response that happens between the ma'allim and those playing the castanets, repeating specific phrases. That's typically African because the main influence came from West Africa, Mali and Mauritania specifically. And these are the slaves that brought Gnawa style, or the African style that became Gnawa during the spread of Islam. And this was now and still is found mainly in Morocco, and the hometown par excellence is Essaouira in northwestern Morocco, but it's also found in Algeria and Tunisia and taken very seriously. So it's the mulatto people who are of African descent but mixed with the North African population, preserve the style, and you can most of the time it's sung in Arabic, Moroccan Arabic, but you can still hear some Bambara phrases, the lingua franca, the common tongue in Mali. There are over 60 languages stemming from the Bambara Empire of West Africa. So this is what's interesting, is that they brought a knowledge of manipulating sound in a variety of different ways, whether melodies, call and response, rhythms, polyrhythms, driving rhythms, and accelerando, speeding up, to uplift the person, alter their consciousness, and the person, they believe that every person has a different color. No, they call them the 7 colors. So the 7 colors are basically 7 different states of mind, but there's actually more than 7 colors if you count variations. For example, blue is not just blue, it's deep dark blue and light blue. So, but essential colors are 7, and the person becomes possessed by these mluk. Mluk is a plural of malik in Arabic, which means king. So they're spirits, they're archetypes. It gets very complex when you start to try to understand what an archetype is. In a traditional sense, or in the Jungian sense, I should say, and Joseph Campbell as well, define it as universal tendency, a way of being. So people become ill because something happens with this spirit that is within them. Their archetype becomes out of tune, if you will, out of phase. And the Ma'allim and the band come and they start playing different pieces from different colors to finally see which color affects the person, and the person goes in trance, either by sitting and listening or dancing and moving. And this is where the realignment, the recalibration, the rehabilitation happens. So it's important to understand them in context and not to take things literally, but really understand what is this a metaphor of? What's going on? How is this being repeated elsewhere? And they talk about it differently. That's what I'm interested in. How human beings tend to create similar patterns, looking for essential things, and they call them differently. If we take them out of context, then each one's going to be something completely different, but it's not going to unite people. It's not going to make us understand who we are, what are we programmed to do, how essential sound is, and what seems to be going on. This is a realignment, a recalibration on the physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual levels. It's very, very, very complex, not to be taken in a reductionist way, but also not to fall into false belief and not understanding that what is being talked about is really a metaphor of something far greater, far more complex, that the best that people can talk about is in this narrative, this kind of rap. And that rap changes from one region to another. Even, in the Amazon, different people talk about what goes on in the ayahuasca experience and the Icaros, and in a variety of different ways. So it can be localized as well. It's very important. It's not to be seen as a superfluous thing or something to be taken lightly, or all these indigenous people that are doing. No, this is what we've done. And all societies were shamanic at one point, traditional, and we've all used sound this way. How this started, why consciousness is so compelled to use sound. What is its function? I believe is to unravel consciousness, is to allow us to understand who we are, to understand, to know what we don't know. And that's what consciousness wants to know. And sound, in its connection to spirituality, consciousness, and the universe, this what Sir Francis Bacon called God's word, which is the logos, the mathematical nature of the universe, these constants, mathematical constants, and how they manifest. And the Pythagoreans told us that the universe is not made of mathematics. Mathematics is what we use to understand, fathom, transmit, experience the universe. And that's why scientists use mathematics, especially physicists, to test models. In God's work, which is what is called Eon Sophia, Gaia, the divine feminine, Pachamama, nature and the intelligence in nature. And this is basically the person, Sir Francis Bacon, who created scientific method. He was a Rosicrucian. He had a big influence on the founding fathers in the States, especially his book, The New Atlantis, which he died before finishing it. He wanted to create new land away from the hegemony of the royalty, the nobility, the religions, and things went wrong at some point. But this was the true intention, and it was about the mystery schools, the mystery teaching, the mysteries, basically, all this essential, deep, esoteric knowledge that went underground when consciousness sank because of a disaster seemed to have happened around 12,500 years ago. Some people say a comet that came and obliterated things and caused a flood that everyone talks about. Anyway, but now this knowledge is coming back, and consciousness is interested in it, and it's ready, for the most part, to handle it. And sound, music, harmony is the most essential part, I'm realizing, and I've been studying this stuff for most of my life. It's the most essential part because it's consciousness relies on acoustics to unfold and know itself. The power, the physics of sound, acoustics, that studies sound and vibration. And that's basically what we're talking about. In Gnawa or in Vodou or in Indian classical music, in Arabic maqam, in any rock concert, but Western music is very limited because of the equal temperament. We lost that. And that's basically what probably caused people to use substances, drugs in raves or in the hippie period, because our music is incapacitated. We can't go in trance naturally with it anymore because the mathematics no longer align with the mathematics of nature. Music is still beautiful, but the octave went through a lot, and people should look into the equal temperament. That's the most essential thing, is equal temperament versus non-equal temperament, not 432 hertz versus 440 hertz. As you find mostly on YouTube.
We're in agreement there. Let's take a listen to Hassan Ben Jaffer himself, along with Innov Gnawa. This is a piece called Tura Tura, and this is the traditional trance music of the Gnawa people, as performed by this group, and they will be performing this Thursday after a keynote presentation by our very special guest, Alexandre Tannous. So here is some Gnawa music for you people. All right. Music from Innov Gnawa and Malim Hassan Ben Jaffer. Malim Hassan Ben Jaffer and Innov Gnawa will be performing this Thursday after keynote presentation from our very special guest here, Alexandre Tannous, and that will be at the Assemblage. You can go, I guess, to Google Assemblage John Street and look up Innov Gnawa. It's, yeah, that's right. It's a 7 to 10, the event. And, yeah, so we have to start transitioning, but what can folks look forward to in terms of your presentation? What are you going to try to get across, and what has your research been kind of turning up these days?
Well, my research has been going on for a while and going deeper and deeper into unexpectedly deep and awesome and sometimes strange, weird levels of sound and its connection to spirituality, the nature of universal consciousness, and the esoteric and the therapeutic aspects. And I used to be musician, composer, and conductor. I'm now mostly sound therapist, sound researcher, and interested in that, in understanding sound from multidisciplinary approach, syncretic approach through synthesis, and it leads me to various areas and understanding some of the things that I talked about earlier, and we'll talk about on Thursday evening. The point of the presentation is to give people the chance to know some more about the music and all the elements around it and behind it, so that they have a deeper experience through and deeper listening, and able to listen judiciously, intentionally, with greater attention and presence of the mind, with awareness. Basically, their mindset is different. Their intentions, attention, will, awareness, curiosity, discernment, reasoning, presence of the mind, these elements that we bring to any present experience that would allow us to get little or a lot out of it. And to learn about Gnawa, more things that I spoke about. I'm going to go into deep layers, a lot of details, and what goes on in the music, what's magical in it, what seems to be going on, how is this connected to the concept of healing, how healing happens, how does sound heal, and how is it used by the individual who is not an inactive participant, but rather an active participant. That's the most important thing. And what my scientific studies have shown, I will show samples of that, EEGs and harmonic spectrum analysis, the role of syncopation, the speeding up in the music, how these elements occur in other similar musical cultures that are used for healing, trance, possession, what's its connection to shamanism and to this order of intelligence in the universe. And it's about realigning the self with the mysteries and recalibrating, rehabilitating, finding inner harmony once again. And talking about the philosophy behind all of that, how it connects to the bigger image, so that we better understand who we are as humans and understand why music is magical, how else could be used and driven and used with intention to change things around, because to my knowledge it's the most powerful tool. Absolutely. Everybody listens to music. Everybody, if there's one thing that links people together, is this music. Why? Because we're programmed to use it to create an experience, to understand who we are, what is it that we're doing on earth, and what is nature to us, what is God, where is God, and all of these things. But like I said earlier, you can do a variety of different things based on the intention, the knowledge or the ignorance, and the skills. And so that when the performance comes, the second half, people can really let go and go deep and experience. And let me tell you, it's riveting. You must be there to experience this music live. This is not music to listen to, because a lot is missing over audio. But live, experiencing the acoustics, the electromagnetics, the vibration fully in a calibrated and adjusted way makes all the difference. So I hope you guys can come.
Yeah, well, it's going to be really exciting, and I'm so glad that you could join us and set the table, so to speak, to that event on Thursday. And people who are interested in learning more about Alexandre Tannous' events and his all of his research, you can go to soundmeditation.com.